Hello and welcome to today's video, and today we're going to talk about how to manage your league's training resources. Now this is an issue at the moment that I think most people are really not aware is an issue, but it is an issue. And the problem is that a lot of leagues really rely on one person who has a collection of notes and a collection of notebooks that are somewhere in their house, and all of that pressure is kind of put on that one person's shoulders, which is tough for that person, but it's also difficult for the league, because when that person moves on, or if they're ill and they can't come to training, then it means that all of that material is kind of stuck with them. And what that means for a league over time is that every now and then you're going to have an event like a coach leaving, or somebody retiring, and there's going to be a really big hole in your training resources, and it's going to be very difficult to kind of move on smoothly with that. Like, you're really going to have to find people who are going to recreate these notebooks and start recreating lesson plans from scratch. And I just think that's a real hardship for a league that you just don't need, and it's not a very good way to organize something as precious as your training materials. So I've registered a user on LessonStack called Banshee Brawler, and that is going to be an admin account for an imaginary roller derby league. So let's log in and have a look. Okay, so when you first log in, you're going to see this dashboard that's got some activities you can teach in it, and a lesson stack down here. And there's really not much else going on. So let's look at making a team. Now, when you first log into LessonStack, you're automatically put onto the free plan. And the free plan is for coaches and team members. And basically, by default, everyone who is on LessonStack is on there for free. You only pay money if you're going to create a team space and invite people to it. Now, team spaces are $7.99 a month, which I think is just really good value for the amount of work that you're going to get out of this, this tool in a minute. And they're also cheaper if you pay yearly. If you pay yearly, you get 2 months free. So it works out $79.99. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to subscribe to this plan to start with, and we'll have a look. Okay, so I've upgraded my account to a LessonStack team manager, and you'll see that just here, you can see it's $7.99 per team monthly. That's not entirely true, because you get a discount if you add more teams once you've got one, but we'll come back to that later. Now, if I decide I've made a mistake and I've accidentally subscribed to the wrong subscription, you can go back to LessonStack free with no problems. Okay, but what you should find now is if I come to this Teams tab, give it a little refresh, you'll see that this modal has now appeared with Create Team in it. And if I create the Brawling Banshees roller derby team, here we go, then you'll see that I have this team now in LessonStack that I can invite people to. And in fact, if I come to the teams area over here, you'll see that the Brawling Banshees is already in here. Now, at the moment, Brawling Banshees is empty. I just have this empty team space where I can chat, I can view activities, I can view stacks and series, but at the moment there's no content in here. Now, I can create content as the Brawling Banshees, but what I'm actually going to do is invite some coaches to join, and they're going to provide some of the content for the league. So I'm going to come over to settings, and I'm going to come down to send invitation, and I'm going to invite one of my test users to this team. Okay, so I've logged out of my Brawling Banshees admin account, and now I'm back in with my test account, which is Rex Coachington. Now, Rex has been sent an email invite to the Brawling Banshees team. So if I come over to Teams here, you'll just see this notice for you've been invited to the Banshees, would you like to accept or reject? I'm going to accept it. Once I've accepted that, I'll have access to the Brawling Banshees team space. Now I can go in here and you can see there's no activities, but it'd be really cool if we actually had some activities to coach in here. So Rex Coachington can go to his activities, and it's as easy as taking these and dragging and dropping them into Brawling Banshees, just like that. So if I come to Banshees now, you'll see that there's this activity in here, Skating 101, students will skate the diamond. And if I click on that through, there'll be some more kind of instructions on the drill that are not filled in yet. Okay, so In my team though, I'm going to want more than just activities. I'm going to want some stacks. Now a stack is a lesson plan, and it's called a stack because you stack activities onto it and then you just check them off as you go. So it's a really neat way to organize your lesson plans. Now if I come to my stacks, I've got this Tuesday bootcamp. So this is a lesson that I'm planning on teaching every Tuesday, and I want it to be available to the Brawling Banshees Roller Derby League. And what I can do is just take it and drag it into Brawling Banshees just like that. Now, if I go to Brawling Banshees and I click on stacks, you can see that Tuesday Bootcamp is in there already. And now anybody who's in this team has access to this stack, and they can coach it anytime they need it. So if I'm ill one week or I can't make training, it's already there. There's no need to panic. Somebody will be able to just have this stack and go through it with a whistle, nice and easy. Now, because this is a Tuesday bootcamp, LessonStack is going to do some really good work for me here. I'm going to set this stack to recur on Tuesday. And what's going to happen now is when I come to my dashboard, it's going to tell me what I'm teaching on Tuesday, and it's going to give me this lesson stack and just remind me when it is every week. And what that's going to mean is that I'm going to change what's in that stack week by week, but I'm never starting from scratch. I'm just tweaking it, I'm just adding and removing things as I go. And you can start to see how LessonStack is going to do a lot of your admin for you. It's just going to set this baseline of organization that's going to kind of prompt you and do a little bit of that legwork. Otherwise you'd have to be scribbling in your notebook on a bus or at home or wherever. LessonStack is just going to pick up some of that slack for you. Okay, so I've got my team, I've got my Brawling Banshees, and I've got some activities going on in here. But what would be really good is if I could get some more material in here to coach. And the really great thing about LessonStack is if you come over to the Discover page, you'll see all of these activities that are created by other coaches. And this is really neat because it means that you can share activities with the community and you can add things to your team spaces and to your coaching spaces very, very quickly. So let's imagine I've been browsing this. I really like this Ryan Gosling paceline drill that Rectangle has put together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this drill and I'm just going to drag it straight into Brawling Banshees, just like that. Now everybody in Brawling Banshees has access to this drill. And what you'll also see is that when I dragged that into Brawling Banshees, it created a copy for me as well. So as a coach, I have a copy of this activity and that copy is shared with the league that I'm a part of. And it just means that everybody in that league has access to what we're coaching. Now, let's say I want to add this to Tuesday Bootcamp. Done. I can just really easily find coaching material on LessonStack, add it to my lessons and share those lessons with the whole league very, very quickly. It's a very powerful tool, and I think if you compare that to using a notebook that can be lost, that only one person has access to, it's an entirely different way of thinking. The way that we're thinking with LessonStack is that your league has very valuable training resources and they should be looked after. And that is what LessonStack is going to give you. Okay, let's have a look at another neat feature, and this is going to be series. So let's imagine that in your league you run a new intake, and you might run a new intake, let's say 3 or 4 times a year, and you want a set of lesson plans that you're going to use every time you have a new intake, and you're going to take those first kind of 5 or 6 weeks after, and you want to coach the same thing every time. Now, it's not going to entirely be the same because we're going to create a series of lesson plans that will be 5 lessons long. And each time you teach it, you can just refine it a little bit. And this is the beauty of LessonStack, is that when you create resources, they provide a baseline. So the next time you do a new intake, you have this set of lessons ready to go. Now, if you've got great ideas and feedback after what happened from your last intake, you can tweak what you've already got instead of having to start from scratch. And you can just see how this is going to do an enormous amount of heavy lifting for your league. Okay, so at the moment, new intake doesn't have any lessons in it. So I'm going to come over to stacks and I'm going to create some new intake stacks. I'm going to create Skating 101. And I'm going to create falling and stopping these are going to be lesson plans that I'll teach, and great technique. Okay, cool. Now, what I can do is I can start to build up lessons very quickly, and there's a number of ways I can do that. Firstly, if you look at these, they're all empty. Well, they're all going to need a warm-up. So I can just drag this warm-up in here, and I can just add it to all of those straight away. Nice and easy. And what I can also do is I can drag these stacks straight into new intake. Just like that. So now if we come over to our series, you'll see we've got these lesson plans already. That one looks like it needs a warm-up. You can see that we've got these lesson plans and they're ready to teach. Okay, so now we've got this series. We're going to add a few more lessons to each one. So if I come to my activities, I can see there's a cool down here. Well, I'm going to need a cool down. And I'm going to need some Skating 101 in Skating 101. And you can see how quickly I can build up these lesson plans using resources that I already have to hand. Now here's the good bit. When I come to the series, I want to make this series available to everyone in my team. So I can just drag it and drop it straight into Brawling Banshees. Now, when I come to Teams and I go into Brawling Banshees, I can click on Series, and here it is. And if I'm a coach, I'll click on that and I'll get this view where it will show me each one, and I'll be able to coach it straight from the league space. So there's not going to be this kind of panic of, well, what are we going to coach the new intakes? What are we going to do with them on day one? We're going to have this baseline that we create, and each time we do a new intake, we'll just tweak it and improve it as we go. But it's going to provide that consistency in your league, and it's going to start doing an enormous amount of heavy lifting for your training planning. And of course, no team space would be complete without a little chat area to ask things, to ask people in your league questions and find out what's going on. So there's a little chat area over here where you can say, hi guys, does anyone know a good plow stop drill? So if I need to coach plow stops, and I'm looking for that particular thing, maybe I'm not very good at them, I couldn't possibly say, but if I need a drill to coach plow stops, I can flag that up with my team, and they can reply to this and tell me the activities that they have and point me in the right direction, and then I'll be able to just drag and drop them straight into my lesson plans. Okay, so that's my teams area, and now I have Rex Coachington creating drills and skills and creating lesson plans that can be used by the whole league. What happens if you're in a larger league and you're going to need more than one space? Well, let's log out Rex Coachington and log back in with our admin account. Okay, so I've logged back in with my Brawling Banshees admin account, and you can see I've got some notifications up here, and it looks like my coaches have been adding all kinds of drills and skills to our team space. But what happens if I'm in a larger league and I now want to add a space for the juniors? Okay, so what I can do is I can come to your settings, I can go to teams, and I can add another team called Brawling Banshees Juniors. And it's going to work in exactly the same way. Now, the great thing about LessonStack is when you have more than one team, it's cheaper per team as you go. So your first team is going to cost $7.99 per month. And for a lot of leagues, that will be plenty. You probably don't need to break down into anything smaller. But if you're a very large league and you have juniors or you have rookies and various travel teams, you might want team spaces for each. And each of your additional spaces will cost just $3.99 a month. So it really doesn't cost a lot of money to really get a handle on how your team is controlling and managing its training resources. So if I go to teams now, you can see I've got these two teams, and I can do exactly the same thing. I can come to Banshees Juniors, and maybe I have different coaches, or maybe I have the same ones that I want to add. That's fine. You can add as many people as you like to each of your teams. And I'll just put a little message in there saying, hi, junior coaching team. Cool. So now I have my league, I have 2 teams to organise all of my training resources, and what's going to happen is that over time the coaches are going to be adding stacks, they're going to be adding activities, they're going to be adding to series, and if you imagine this cumulative effect, right? If you imagine all of the notebooks that all of your coaches have ever had that have come and gone through your league, well, those notebooks have drifted away. They've belonged to one person, they've come and gone. This is like the inverse of that. Every time somebody has a great idea or an activity, it goes into the pool and it's kept. And that's the key difference, is that when you're a young league, you're going to have a lot of materials here to get you started. And as you grow more experienced, the depth of material and the understanding that you'll have of that material is just going to grow over time. So what you're looking at eventually is just a very complete system for managing your coaching resources. And I honestly believe that once you start working in this way, it feels crazy to go back to having a notebook that lives in somebody's bedroom. Like, it just seems like a crazy way to organize training for an entire league. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.